So with tennis, you want to make sure that we're moving in a multi-planar direction as far as our training goes. And what I mean by that is, real quick, just a nice kind of easy breakdown. This right here is what we call our sagittal plane. So if I'm bending forward and backward, okay, so that might be something that we involve with shoulders, okay, as far as coming over with the serve. We have another dimension of movement or plane of movement called the frontal plane. That's basically moving in this lateral direction here. Okay, so that's like if we're moving side to side and we come over for a hit. So the last one is called transverse plane, and that just means we're moving in this twisting motion here. Okay, so you can kind of see how those last two are a lot more abundant than this here. If we think about it, like we serve, and then for the most part we're moving side to side, and then I may rotate as far as the swing goes. So let's get into a few different movements that kind of encompass that can help take your game to another level and maybe hopefully reduce some injury while we're at it too. First one's going to be what we call a lateral lunge or a lateral squat. And I'll show you a couple different ways we can do this. So the first one, I'm just going to go into a wide stance like so. I may take a kettlebell like this, and the object for me is I'm trying to sit into this hip here, kind of like I'm trying to reach a chair that's out behind me and I'm trying to find it, if you've ever been in that scenario before. So I'm here, and then push through that leg to come up. Okay, this is going to help with, again, more of that lateral movement, also building a little bit more hip power and strength as well. Okay, so I can do it in this position here, like I said. I can also do it to where I'm stepping, and now it's kind of almost like a single leg exercise, moving in a lateral direction. So whatever direction I'm moving, the opposite hand has the weight, okay? That's the lateral lunge. Another way that we can do this, and this is more just in terms of how we program things, is we want to make sure that we're kind of working on slow and controlled at first before we start doing quick reps. And so the quickest rep would be more like a plyometric type lateral lunge. So it looks like this. Now, is this more sport specific for you guys? Absolutely. However, it loads the system a little bit more, so you're gonna have a higher incidence if we're not trained accordingly, to where we might have some injury or some niggles here and there with our hips or knees. So one of the things that we have to take into account whenever we're playing tennis is obviously the amount of grip or tension that we're putting into our hand, our wrist, and our elbow whenever we're gripping the racket. So what I'm going to show you, this is kind of what I consider like a 2-for-1 special. We're going to do our first variation of a march or a walk is we're going to do what's called a bottoms up carry, okay? And so I typically suggest you want to do this with a kettlebell, and I'll show you why. The reason being is whenever we're doing the bottoms up portion, we have the kettlebell upside down, like so, okay? So you can imagine, like, I have to grip this pretty hard, but also I let the weight kind of sit into the palm of my hand here. Now this does take some strength, but actually takes a lot of shoulder stability too, to be able to balance that and stabilize it while we're walking. And like I said, I'm going to show you some variations here. This is much more of a time-based activity, whereas with the lateral squat or the lateral lunge, you're either going to do reps, or you may do it for holding for a period of time, something along those lines. And you know, the standard 3 sets, 5-10 reps. If it's 5 reps, you may hold for 3 to 5 seconds. If it's 10 reps, you may just be doing reps. But I want you to definitely, guys, think about all of these being more slow and methodical at first before we start speeding through this, okay? You're just gonna get much more benefit out of it. It's gonna be a hell of a lot harder too, honestly. So, bottoms up. I'm here, balance the kettlebell, and I'm just going to walk, okay? So this might be a time-based activity where it's maybe like 30 seconds or a minute, and I can go forward, I can go backward. But what we're doing here is we're building grip strength into your hand, so that it takes a little bit of pressure off of the elbow. One of the main reasons why we have tennis elbow in the first place is mainly because our grip strength's not that great, or our strength in our shoulders are not that great. And so that's kind of why this guy gets caught in the middle, okay? So that's bottoms up. Another good variation of this is we just take 2 heavier kettlebells. I'm gonna do a little hand grip like so. This also kind of helps with grip strength, so you can squeeze this as hard as you want, or you can let it off and just go into a small grip like so. And from here, I can work on balance. Okay, you could literally do step ups with this. It's kind of just more of a position of grip, but I usually weigh this down if I'm doing like a walk. Okay, again, I'm gonna do about 1-2 minutes. I like to do these in between bigger lifts. Like let's say I might do a squat, and then in between a squat and let's say maybe an upper body push, like an overhead press, I may do this to kind of help catch my breath a little bit and rest a little bit. This is called a farmer's carry position on one side. This is called a suitcase carry position. And the reason why we would do it on one side is more for kind of offsetting that balance. If you guys have ever noticed, if you carry a bag, you tend to sometimes, or a baby, you may tend to lean, right? Or maybe lean with the baby on one side. We're practicing essentially creating a little bit more strength and stability in the trunk by having it on one side, okay? Those are the carries. Let's check out the next one. Okay, so one of the big things that you guys need is a lot of rotation through your spine to be able to get your swing around or to really reach back for a serve. And so a really good exercise for this is what we call halos. You can use a weight plate, you could use a kettlebell, which I'm gonna use, you could use a dumbbell, you could use your baby if you wanted to. It really does not matter as long as it's a weighted object. And we're just gonna come around our body like so. Okay, so you'll see that in real time with the kettlebell here. If it's a kettlebell, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna grip it like this, okay? So it's upside down, my thumbs go through it here, and I flip it, okay? And then from here, I'm in what's called a lunge stance, or half kneeling is another name for this position. This provides us a little bit more challenge for balance while we're getting that rotation in our mid-back, okay? Really good shoulder exercise as far as strength goes, but then also kind of helps control that rotation element as far as mid-back goes. So I'm here, I'm gonna go painfully slow around like this, okay? A lot of people tend to try to move their head. The object here is to try to keep that pretty still so that you're using your arms to get around the object as opposed to accommodating it with your head. Okay, so I'm here. And around. Okay. I may do 5 in one direction, 5 in the other direction, and then I may switch my legs and repeat the same thing. You may notice that one leg in front versus one in the back is a little bit different. Play around with these sorts of things and then kind of almost prey on that in the way of, if my right leg being in front is harder, well, let's work on that. Make that weakness a strength. Let's move on to the next one. So another good couple drills that you guys can use, and I'll put the link for this in the bottom of the video. You can get what are called heavy resistance bands. You'd also do this with like a cable machine as well. It might just be a little bit harder to do. But we're gonna work on rotation again, while also kind of building up a little bit of pull strength in the shoulders as well. Where I typically find people go wrong as far as their programming goes is they do a lot more push, and this is usually like for the bros, if you will. They do a lot more push than they do pull. And for tennis especially, all of your power is going to come from pull, meaning that if I'm really strong on rearing back, it's kind of like a spring. It's a loaded spring or a loaded gun. And so as soon as I start that flexion forward, I'm gonna have a heck of a lot more power when I come through that swing. So it's all about kind of loading that spring back. As much strength as you have pulling, you're going to have just as much as you come through with that, okay? So, heavy resistance band. They come in different resistances. This one's kind of like more on the medium small side. First one I'm gonna do, and you can do this standing, I'm just in this position for the camera. I can be in this half kneeling position. I could also be in what's called a tall kneeling position, like so, okay? It's called band pull aparts, and all I'm gonna do, like the name says, is pull and bring that into my chest, okay? And I may start to kind of hold it for about 3 to 5 seconds when I initially start this, just to kind of get that cascade of strength, jump started a little bit faster. So I'm here and hold. Okay, you can kind of see from the side, it allows me to get a little bit of extension out of my mid back. So I'm here. You can kind of see, it allows me to stick out my chest just a hair, okay? Again, I may hold it first, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do about, 2 to 3 sets, 5 to 10 reps. If it's on that 5 side, maybe we hold for 5 seconds. You could probably work your way up into 20 reps, but for that, I'd probably just be doing reps, okay? Another good one, using the same band, is we can do a rotation element of this too. So I'm gonna go one hand in front, and I'm just gonna take my hand, pull, as I rotate back away from me, like so. Okay, again, this is another really good rotation type of exercise, especially for as much swings as you guys take in tennis. We want to make sure that we're strong throughout that whole movement, okay? So same kind of rep scheme as what we did with the pull aparts, okay? We've got a couple more, let's check them out. So with tennis, it's very much an endurance sport, but you also have to have a little bit of power as well, especially when we're coming up to take a shot. Because of that, with as much like sprinting as you guys do in short periods of time, we have to build up our legs a little bit too. And so hamstrings are a great way to kind of tap into that. I'm going to show you, it looks kind of like a glute bridge. It's more of what we call an elevated glute bridge, mainly because that's going to tap into the hamstrings a little bit more. Okay, let's get into it. So I'm going to put my heels up on a bench, like so. And I may start here at like a 90-degree shape. Honestly, the further away I go, the more hamstring it does kind of bring into the equation. What I usually say is the closer I am, the higher up, the further away, the lower down, okay? So there's really no right or wrong on this, just get the reps in, okay? What you're gonna do for me at first is you can use your hands to support yourself. I'm gonna bring my toes towards my shins. That just allows me to kind of tense up my nervous system a little bit before this movement. I'll brace my torso, breathe out, hands down on the ground for support. I'm just gonna push my heels into the ground as I raise my butt up in the air, okay? And so at first I may hold up there. Again, that's a good way to start the movement if we're new to this, because it's gonna start to build strength a little bit faster because of that, okay? As we get more engrossed in it and we feel a little bit more stable, we can start to take our hands away, and now we can do reps, okay? One transition you can go to is you can go up on 2, lift, down on 1, okay? Up on 2,
down on one. And you may have one side that feels, wow, that's a lot harder than the other. Again, kind of play on that. Make that weakness a strength. And so lastly, once you kind of start to feel like you're getting more confident with this, now you can start to do one-legged on one side. Okay. Just digging my heel into the bench, lifting my butt up into the air. Okay. Again, a great way to kind of tie in a little bit more power as far as the acceleration part goes with tennis. Hope you enjoyed these, guys.